The last thing my wife ever said to me was something I didn't understand at the time. It was simple, almost ordinary, and I nodded like I always did. My name is Harold. I'm 79 years old, and it took losing her to finally understand what she meant. We were married for 53 years. That's long enough for a person to think they understand everything about someone else. I certainly thought I did. Margaret was steady, gentle, and patient in ways I probably took for granted. I was the practical one. I handled the bills, the house repairs, the planning. I believed that was love, taking care of the structure of our life so she never had to worry. In our early years, I worked long hours. I told myself it was necessary, and in many ways it was. We had 2 children, a mortgage that felt enormous at the time, and the kind of modest income that meant every decision mattered. I would leave before the sun came up and come home when it was already dark in the winter. Margaret would be waiting at the kitchen table, sometimes with a plate kept warm in the oven, sometimes just with a cup of tea and a look that said she was glad I was home. She used to say something to me back then, especially on nights when I was too tired to talk. She would reach across the table and say, "Harold, I don't need more from you. I just need you." I would smile and squeeze her hand and tell her I was doing all of this for us. In my mind, that answered her. I thought she was reassuring me, telling me she appreciated my effort. As the years passed, the children grew up and moved out. The house became quieter. My job became less demanding, but by then I had grown used to filling my time with tasks. There was always something to fix, some account to review, some errand that felt important. Margaret would sit in the living room in the evenings, sometimes reading, sometimes just watching the light fade through the curtains. She would ask me to sit with her, and often I would, but not fully. I would glance at the clock. I would think about what needed to be done the next day. Looking back, I can see that she was asking for something I didn't know how to give. Not money, not security, not solutions, just presence. At the time, I thought presence meant being in the same room. I didn't understand that it meant setting down the mental weight I carried and turning toward her completely, even if only for a little while. When she got sick, it happened slowly at first. Doctor visits, small adjustments, words like monitor and manage. I handled it the way I handled everything else. I researched, I scheduled appointments, I made charts of her medications. I became efficient. Margaret would watch me from her chair and sometimes smile in that soft way she had. One afternoon, when the house felt especially still, she said it again. "Harold, I don't need more from you. I just need you." I remember feeling a flicker of irritation, though I never showed it. I thought, what else could I possibly be giving? I'm here every day. I'm doing everything. I thought she was afraid, and I reassured her by telling her we were on top of it, that we had good doctors, that we would handle whatever came. She nodded, but there was something in her eyes that I now realize was disappointment, though not the sharp kind. It was softer than that, almost sad. The night before she died, the hospital room was quiet except for the sound of machines. The children had gone home to rest. It was just the 2 of us. I sat beside her bed, holding her hand. She looked so small in that white room. She turned her head toward me with effort and said, "Harold, sit with me." I told her I was sitting with her. I was right there. She gave the faintest shake of her head and whispered, "No, really sit with me." I didn't know what she meant. I thought maybe she was confused from the medication. I leaned closer, adjusted her pillow, checked the monitor like I had learned to do. She closed her eyes for a moment and then looked at me again, and there were tears in them. "Just be here," she said. She died early the next morning while I was still holding her hand, and for months afterward, I replayed that night in my mind. I told myself I had done everything a husband could do. I had been faithful, I had worked hard, I had provided, I had stayed by her side in the end. What more could she have wanted? It wasn't until the house became unbearably quiet that I began to understand. I would sit in the living room in the evenings, in the same chair she used to occupy, and stare at the empty space across from me. There were no more tasks urgent enough to distract me. No one needed driving to school. No reports needed finishing. The silence forced me to confront something I had avoided my entire life. I did not know how to simply be. I started remembering small moments I had brushed aside. The way she would pause in the middle of telling me about her day when she realized I wasn't really listening. The way her voice softened when she asked me to take a walk with her after dinner. The way she would sometimes reach for my hand during a movie, and I would gently pull away to get more comfortable, not realizing what that small gesture meant to her. Margaret wasn't asking for grand gestures. She wasn't asking me to quit my job or rewrite our history. She was asking for my attention, my undivided presence, my willingness to sit in a moment without trying to fix it or improve it. She wanted to feel that I was with her, not just beside her. At 79, I finally understand that love is not proven by efficiency. It isn't measured by how well you manage a household or how much you shield someone from practical burdens. Those things matter, yes, but they are not the heart of it. The heart of it is much quieter. It's sitting in a fading light and noticing the way it touches the person you've chosen. It's listening without preparing a response. It's allowing silence to exist without rushing to fill it. I realize now that when she said, "I just need you," she meant the part of me that wasn't always calculating and planning. She meant the man who used to laugh easily in our 20s, who would lie on the grass with her and talk about nothing important at all. Over time, I replaced that man with someone more responsible, more controlled. I thought maturity meant tightening up, becoming solid and dependable. I didn't see that I was also becoming distant. There's a particular memory that comes back to me often. We were in our 40s, the children were at a friend's house, and we had an evening alone. She suggested we sit on the porch and watch the storm roll in. I remember telling her I had paperwork to finish. She went out alone, and I stayed inside at the dining table, convinced I was doing the right thing. Now, when storms come through, I sit on that same porch. I listen to the thunder and think about the sound of her voice calling me outside. If I could sit with her one more time, I would put away every list and every plan. I would let the world remain imperfect for an hour. I would look at her face as if it were the only thing that required my attention, because in truth, it was. I can't change what I gave her, but I can say this to you, whoever is listening. If there is someone in your life who keeps saying they just need you, believe them. Don't assume they mean money or solutions or constant reassurance. Sometimes they mean they want the unguarded version of you, the one who isn't managing the future but inhabiting the present. Old age has a way of stripping things down to what matters. At 79, I no longer care about the size of the house or the neatness of the accounts. I care about whether I was fully there in the moments that counted. And the honest answer is that too often, I wasn't. I loved my wife deeply. Of that, I have no doubt. But love felt like a responsibility to me, and to her, it felt like connection. It took her absence for me to see the difference. So now, when I sit in the quiet of this house, I try to practice what she was teaching me all along. I sit without reaching for distraction. I let memories rise and fall. I allow myself to feel the weight of what I missed, not to punish myself, but to understand. If you still have time, use it differently than I did. Sit a little longer. Listen a little closer. When someone you love asks you to be there, don't just occupy the chair. Offer them your full attention, your steady gaze, your quiet heart. Because one day, the room will be silent, and you will finally understand what they meant. I just wish I had understood it sooner.